Dans les chroniques de l'ancienne dynastie.
In the chronicles of the ancient dynasty. In the chronicles of the ancient dynasty.
Des Sassanides.
Of the Sassanidae. Of the Sassanidae.
Puissants souverains de Perse.
Powerful rulers of Persia. Powerful rulers of Persia.
Qui régnèrent pendant environ 400 ans.
Who reigned for about 400 years. Who reigned for about 400 years.
De la Perse aux frontières de la Chine.
From Persia to the borders of China. From Persia to the borders of China.
Au-delà du grand fleuve Gange lui-même.
Beyond the great river Ganges itself. Beyond the great river Ganges itself.
Nous lisons les louanges d'un grand roi.
We read the praises of a great king. We read the praises of a great king.
Il appartient à cette race royale qui est la nôtre.
He belongs to this royal race of ours. He belongs to this royal race of ours.
Il était considéré comme le meilleur monarque.
He was considered the best monarch. He was considered the best monarch.
Beaucoup disaient qu'il régnait pendant son temps.
Many said he ruled during his time. Many said he ruled during his time.
Ses sujets l'aimaient.
His subjects loved him. His subjects loved him.
Ses voisins le craignaient.
And his neighbors feared him. And his neighbors feared him.
Lorsqu'il mourut.
When he died. When he died.
Son royaume était prospère.
His kingdom was prosperous. His kingdom was prosperous.
Il était plus puissant que celui de n'importe quel roi avant lui.
It was more powerful than any kings before. It was more powerful than any kings before.
Les deux fils qui lui survécurent s'aimaient profondément.
The two sons who survived him loved deeply. The two sons who survived him loved deeply.
Ils prenaient soin l'un de l'autre avec tendresse.
They cared for each other with tenderness. They cared for each other with tenderness.
Cela causa une profonde tristesse à l'aîné.
It caused deep sorrow to the elder. It caused deep sorrow to the elder.
L'aîné ressentit un véritable chagrin à ce sujet.
The elder felt true grief over it. The elder felt true grief over it.
Shahryar.
Shahryar.
Les lois de l'Empire lui interdisaient de partager.
The empire's laws forbade him from sharing. The empire's laws forbade him from sharing.
Il ne pouvait pas partager ses dominions avec Shazman.
He could not share his dominions with Shaziman. He could not share his dominions with Shaziman.
En effet,
Indeed,
après 10 ans,
after 10 years. After 10 years.
cet état de choses continua de le troubler.
This state of things continued to trouble him. This state of things continued to trouble him.
Il n'était pas exempt de ces effets troublants.
He was not free from its troubling effects. He was not free from its troubling effects.
Shahryar sépara la Grande Tartarie de l'Empire perse.
Shahryar separated Great Tartary from the Persian Empire. Shahryar separated Great Tartary from the Persian Empire.
Il fit de son frère le roi de Tartarie.
He made his brother the king of Tartary. He made his brother the king of Tartary.
Le sultan Shahryar avait une épouse bien-aimée.
The Sultan Shahryar had a beloved wife. The Sultan Shahryar had a beloved wife.
Il l'aimait plus que tout.
He loved her more than anything else. He loved her more than anything else.
Son plus grand bonheur était de l'entourer.
His greatest happiness was to surround her. His greatest happiness was to surround her.
Il voulait l'entourer de splendeur.
He wanted to surround her with splendor. He wanted to surround her with splendor.
Lui offrir les plus belles robes et les plus beaux bijoux.
Give her the finest dresses and beautiful jewels. Give her the finest dresses and beautiful jewels.
Lui fournir les plus beaux accessoires.
Provide her with the most beautiful accessories. Provide her with the most beautiful accessories.
Aussi,
Too.
il le découvrit avec une profonde honte et tristesse.
He discovered it with deep shame and sorrow. He discovered it with deep shame and sorrow.
C'était une découverte accidentelle qui apporta de la tristesse.
It was an accidental discovery that brought sadness. It was an accidental discovery that brought sadness.
Après plusieurs années,
After several years. After several years.
elle l'avait complètement trompé.
That she had deceived him completely. That she had deceived him completely.
Sa conduite entière était très mauvaise.
Her entire conduct was very poor. Her entire conduct was very poor.
Elle s'avéra être assez mauvaise.
It turned out to be quite bad. It turned out to be quite bad.
Il sentit qu'il devait suivre la loi.
He felt he must follow the law. He felt he must follow the law.
C'était son devoir d'obéir à la loi.
It was his duty to obey the law. It was his duty to obey the law.
Ordonner au grand vizir de l'exécuter.
Order the Grand Vizier to execute her. Order the Grand Vizier to execute her.
Lui ordonner de la mettre à mort.
Command him to put her to death. Command him to put her to death.
Le coup était si lourd.
The blow was so heavy. The blow was so heavy.
Son esprit était presque brisé.
His mind almost broke. His mind almost broke.
Il déclara qu'il était tout à fait sûr de quelque chose.
He declared he was quite sure of something. He declared he was quite sure of something.
Au fond,
At bottom. At bottom.
toutes les femmes étaient aussi méchantes que la sultane.
All women were as wicked as the sultana. All women were as wicked as the sultana.
Si seulement on pouvait les découvrir.
If you could only find them out. If you could only find them out.
Moins il y aurait de gens dans le monde.
The fewer people in the world. The fewer people in the world.
Mieux ce serait.
The better. The better.
Un monde plus petit apporte plus de paix et de bonheur.
A smaller world brings more peace and happiness. A smaller world brings more peace and happiness.
Chaque soir.
Every evening. Every evening.
Il épousait une nouvelle femme.
He married a new wife. He married a new wife.
Le lendemain matin,
The next morning. The next morning.
elle était étranglée devant le grand vizir.
She was strangled before the Grand Vizier. She was strangled before the Grand Vizier.
C'était leur devoir de fournir des épouses malheureuses.
It was their duty to provide unhappy brides. It was their duty to provide unhappy brides.
Le devoir impliquait de fournir des épouses pour le sultan.
The duty involved supplying brides for the Sultan. The duty involved supplying brides for the Sultan.
Le pauvre homme accomplissait sa tâche avec réticence.
The poor man fulfilled his task with reluctance. The poor man fulfilled his task with reluctance.
Mais il n'y avait pas d'échappatoire.
But there was no escape. But there was no escape.
Chaque jour,
Every day. Every day.
une fille se mariait.
A girl got married. A girl got married.
Chaque jour,
Every day. Every day.
une épouse mourait.
A wife died. A wife died.
Ce comportement causait une grande horreur dans la ville.
This behavior caused great horror in the town. This behavior caused great horror in the town.
La ville connaissait la plus grande peur à cause de cela.
The town experienced the greatest fear from it. The town experienced the greatest fear from it.
Où l'on n'entendait que des cris et des lamentations.
Where nothing was heard but cries and lamentations. Where nothing was heard but cries and lamentations.
Un père pleurait dans une maison.
A father was weeping in one house. A father was weeping in one house.
Il pleurait la perte de sa fille.
He mourned the loss of his daughter. He mourned the loss of his daughter.
À un autre moment,
In another moment. In another moment.
une mère tremble de peur.
A mother trembles with fear. A mother trembles with fear.
Elle s'inquiète pour le sort de son enfant.
She worries for the fate of her child. She worries for the fate of her child.
Au lieu des bénédictions données au sultan,
Instead of the blessings given to the Sultan. Instead of the blessings given to the Sultan.
autrefois accumulées sur la tête du sultan,
Formerly heaped on the Sultan's head. Formerly heaped on the Sultan's head.
maintenant disparues.
Now gone. Now gone.
L'air était maintenant rempli de malédictions.
The air was now full of curses. The air was now full of curses.
Le grand vizir était le père de 2 filles.
The Grand Vizier was the father of 2 daughters. The Grand Vizier was the father of 2 daughters.
Il avait lui-même 2 filles.
He himself had 2 daughters. He himself had 2 daughters.
Dont l'aînée s'appelait Scheherazade.
Of whom the elder was called Scheherazade. Of whom the elder was called Scheherazade.
La plus jeune Dinarzade.
And the younger Dinarzade. And the younger Dinarzade.
Dinarzade n'avait aucun don particulier pour se distinguer.
Dinarzade had no special gifts to stand out. Dinarzade had no special gifts to stand out.
Elle était comme toutes les autres filles.
She was just like all the other girls. She was just like all the other girls.
Sa sœur était très intelligente et courageuse.
Her sister was very clever and brave. Her sister was very clever and brave.
Elle montrait toujours un grand courage et intelligence.
She showed great courage and intelligence always. She showed great courage and intelligence always.
Son père lui donna la meilleure éducation.
Her father gave her the best education. Her father gave her the best education.
Elle étudia la philosophie avec de grands maîtres.
She studied philosophy with great masters. She studied philosophy with great masters.
La médecine.
Medicine.
L'histoire et les beaux-arts.
History and the fine arts. History and the fine arts.
Et en plus de tout cela,
And besides all this. And besides all this.
sa beauté surpassait celle de n'importe quelle fille.
Her beauty excelled that of any girl. Her beauty excelled that of any girl.
Elle était la plus belle de Perse.
She was the most beautiful in Persia. She was the most beautiful in Persia.
Un jour,
One day. One day.
le grand vizir parla avec son aîné.
The Grand Vizier spoke with his eldest daughter. The Grand Vizier spoke with his eldest daughter.
Ils avaient une conversation importante ensemble.
They were having an important conversation together. They were having an important conversation together.
Qui était sa joie et sa fierté?
Who was his delight and pride? Who was his delight and pride?
Scheherazade lui dit.
Scheherazade said to him. Scheherazade said to him.
Père,
Father,
j'ai une faveur à te demander.
I have a favor to ask of you. I have a favor to ask of you.
Me l'accorderas-tu?
Will you grant it to me? Will you grant it to me?
Je ne peux rien te refuser.
I can refuse you nothing. I can refuse you nothing.
Répondit-il.
Replied he. Replied he.
Qui soit juste et raisonnable.
That is just and reasonable. That is just and reasonable.
Alors écoute.
Then listen. Then listen.
Dit Scheherazade.
Said Scheherazade. Said Scheherazade.
Je suis déterminée à arrêter cette pratique.
I am determined to stop this practice. I am determined to stop this practice.
Cet acte barbare du sultan doit cesser.
This barbarous act of the Sultan must end. This barbarous act of the Sultan must end.
Délivre les filles de ce destin affreux.
Deliver the girls from the awful fate. Deliver the girls from the awful fate.
Sauve les mères du danger qui les menace.
Rescue mothers from the danger that threatens. Rescue mothers from the danger that threatens.
Ce serait une excellente chose à faire.
It would be an excellent thing to do. It would be an excellent thing to do.
Répondit le grand vizir.
Returned the Grand Vizier. Returned the Grand Vizier.
Mais comment proposes-tu de l'accomplir?
But how do you propose to accomplish it? But how do you propose to accomplish it?
Mon père.
My father. My father.
Répondit Scheherazade.
Answered Scheherazade. Answered Scheherazade.
Tu dois fournir au sultan chaque jour.
You must provide the Sultan daily. You must provide the Sultan daily.
Il a besoin d'une nouvelle épouse chaque jour.
He needs a fresh wife each day. He needs a fresh wife each day.
Je t'implore.
And I implore you. And I implore you.
Par toute l'affection que tu me portes.
By all the affection you bear me. By all the affection you bear me.
De permettre que cet honneur me revienne.
To allow the honor to fall upon me. To allow the honor to fall upon me.
As-tu perdu la tête?
Have you lost your senses? Have you lost your senses?
S'écria le grand vizir.
cried the Grand Vizier. Cried the Grand Vizier.
Reculant d'horreur.
Starting back in horror. Starting back in horror.
Qu'est-ce qui t'a fait penser à une telle chose?
What made you think such a thing? What made you think such a thing?
Pourquoi as-tu cette idée en tête?
Why do you have that idea in mind? Why do you have that idea in mind?
Tu devrais comprendre ce que cela signifie maintenant.
You should understand what it means now. You should understand what it means now.
Être l'épouse du sultan est très important.
Being the Sultan's bride is very important. Being the Sultan's bride is very important.
Oui,
Yes.
mon père.
My father. My father.
Je le sais bien.
I know it well. I know it well.
Répondit-elle.
Replied she. Replied she.
Je n'ai pas peur.
I am not afraid. I am not afraid.
Je peux y penser.
I can think of it. I can think of it.
Si j'échoue,
If I fail. If I fail.
ma mort sera glorieuse.
My death will be a glorious one. My death will be a glorious one.
Si je réussis,
If I succeed. If I succeed.
j'aiderai mon pays.
I will help my country. I will help my country.
J'aurai rendu un grand service.
I will have done a great service. I will have done a great service.
Cela ne sert à rien.
It is of no use. It is of no use.
Dit le grand vizir.
Said the Grand Vizier. Said the Grand Vizier.
Je ne consentirai jamais.
I shall never consent. I shall never consent.
Si le sultan m'ordonnait de frapper,
If the Sultan ordered me to strike. If the Sultan ordered me to strike.
je plongerai un poignard dans ton cœur.
I would plunge a dagger in your heart. I would plunge a dagger in your heart.
Je devrais obéir.
I should have to obey. I should have to obey.
Quelle tâche pour un père.
What a task for a father. What a task for a father. Ah.
Si tu ne crains pas la mort.
If you do not fear death. If you do not fear death.
Crains l'angoisse que tu me causerais.
Fear the anguish you would cause me. Fear the anguish you would cause me.
De toute façon.
At any rate. At any rate.
Cela me ferait profondément mal.
It would hurt me deeply. It would hurt me deeply.
Encore une fois.
Once again. Once again.
Mon père.
My father. My father.
Dit Scheherazade.
Said Scheherazade. Said Scheherazade.
M'accorderas-tu ce que je demande?
Will you grant me what I ask? Will you grant me what I ask?
Quoi?
What?
Es-tu encore si obstiné?
Are you still so obstinate? Are you still so obstinate?
S'exclama le grand vizir.
Exclaimed the Grand Vizier. Exclaimed the Grand Vizier.
Pourquoi es-tu si concentré sur ta chute?
Why are you so focused on your downfall? Why are you so focused on your downfall?
Qu'est-ce qui te pousse à chercher ta ruine?
What makes you determined to seek your ruin? What makes you determined to seek your ruin?
La jeune fille refusa d'écouter son père.
The maiden refused to listen to her father. The maiden refused to listen to her father.
Elle ignora complètement ses paroles et ses conseils.
She absolutely ignored his words and advice. She absolutely ignored his words and advice.
Finalement.
And at length. And at length.
Désespéré.
In despair. In despair.
Le grand vizir fut obligé de céder.
The Grand Vizier was obliged to give way. The Grand Vizier was obliged to give way.
Il se rendit tristement au palais.
He went sadly to the palace. He went sadly to the palace.
Il devait informer le sultan de Scheherazade.
He needed to tell the Sultan about Scheherazade. He needed to tell the Sultan about Scheherazade.
Le sultan reçut la nouvelle avec étonnement.
The Sultan received the news with astonishment. The Sultan received the news with astonishment.
Il fut grandement surpris par l'information.
He was greatly surprised by the information. He was greatly surprised by the information.
Comment as-tu pris ta décision?
How have you made up your mind? How have you made up your mind?
Demanda-t-il.
He asked. He asked.
De sacrifier ta propre fille pour moi?
To sacrifice your own daughter to me? To sacrifice your own daughter to me?
Sire,
Sire,
répondit le grand vizir.
answered the Grand Vizier. Answered the Grand Vizier.
C'est son propre souhait.
It is her own wish. It is her own wish.
Le triste destin qui l'attend ne l'arrêtera pas.
The sad fate awaiting her won't stop her. The sad fate awaiting her won't stop her.
Rien ne peut la retenir d'avancer.
Nothing can hold her back from moving forward. Nothing can hold her back from moving forward.
Qu'il n'y ait pas d'erreur.
Let there be no mistake. Let there be no mistake.
Vizir,
Vizier,
dit le sultan.
said the Sultan. Said the Sultan.
Tu dois te rappeler de ta responsabilité dans cela.
You must remember your responsibility in this. You must remember your responsibility in this.
Tu devras lui ôter la vie toi-même.
You will have to take her life yourself. You will have to take her life yourself.
Si tu refuses,
If you refuse. If you refuse.
je jure que ta tête en paiera le prix.
I swear that your head shall pay forfeit. I swear that your head shall pay forfeit.
Sire,
Sire,
répondit le vizir.
returned the Vizier. Returned the Vizier.
Quel qu'en soit le coût,
Whatever the cost. Whatever the cost.
je vous obéirai.
I will obey you. I will obey you.
Bien que père,
Though a father. Though a father.
je suis aussi votre sujet.
I am also your subject. I am also your subject.
Le sultan dit quelque chose d'important au grand vizir.
The Sultan told the Grand Vizier something important. The Sultan told the Grand Vizier something important.
Il dit qu'il pouvait amener sa fille à tout moment.
He said he might bring his daughter anytime. He said he might bring his daughter anytime.
Le vizir rapporta cette nouvelle à Scheherazade.
The vizier took back this news to Scheherazade. The vizier took back this news to Scheherazade.
Il l'a reçu comme si c'était merveilleux.
Who received it like it was wonderful. Who received it like it was wonderful.
Comme si c'était la meilleure expérience de toutes.
As if it were the best experience ever. As if it were the best experience ever.
Elle remercia chaleureusement son père.
She thanked her father warmly. She thanked her father warmly.
Il céda à ses souhaits.
He yielded to her wishes. He yielded to her wishes. And,
Le voyant encore accablé de chagrin.
seeing him still bowed down with grief. Seeing him still bowed down with grief.
Elle lui dit qu'elle espérait qu'il ne regretterait pas.
She told him she hoped he wouldn't regret. She told him she hoped he wouldn't regret.
Il lui permit d'épouser le sultan.
He allowed her to marry the Sultan. He allowed her to marry the Sultan.
Elle est allée se préparer pour le mariage.
She went to prepare herself for the marriage. She went to prepare herself for the marriage.
Puis,
Then,
elle s'est préparée pour le grand jour.
she got ready for the big day. She got ready for the big day.
Elle a supplié pour sa sœur Dinarzade.
She begged for her sister Dinarzade. She begged for her sister Dinarzade.
Elle voulait qu'on fasse venir Dinarzade.
She wanted Dinarzade to be sent for. She wanted Dinarzade to be sent for.
Quand elles étaient seules.
When they were alone. When they were alone.
Scheherazade s'adressa à elle ainsi.
Scheherazade addressed her thus. Scheherazade addressed her thus.
Ma chère sœur,
My dear sister. My dear sister.
j'ai besoin de ton aide pour quelque chose d'important.
I need your help with something important. I need your help with something important.
Cette affaire est très importante pour moi.
This matter is very important to me. This matter is very important to me.
Mon père m'emmène au palais.
My father is taking me to the palace. My father is taking me to the palace.
Nous allons célébrer mon mariage avec le sultan.
We will celebrate my marriage with the Sultan. We will celebrate my marriage with the Sultan.
Quand Sa Majesté me recevra.
When His Highness receives me. When His Highness receives me.
Je le supplierai.
I shall beg him. I shall beg him.
Comme dernière faveur.
As a last favor. As a last favor.
De te laisser dormir dans notre chambre.
To let you sleep in our chamber. To let you sleep in our chamber.
Je veux ta compagnie ce soir.
I want your company tonight. I want your company tonight.
C'est ma dernière nuit en vie.
It's my last night alive. It's my last night alive.
Si,
If,
comme je l'espère,
as I hope. As I hope.
il m'accorde mon souhait.
He grants me my wish. He grants me my wish.
Assure-toi de me réveiller 1 heure plus tôt.
Make sure to wake me 1 hour early. Make sure to wake me 1 hour early.
Réveille-moi avant l'aube.
Wake me up before dawn. Wake me up before dawn.
S'il te plaît.
Please.
Parle-moi en ces termes.
And speak to me in these words. And speak to me in these words.
Ma sœur.
My sister. My sister.
Si tu n'es pas endormi.
If you are not asleep. If you are not asleep.
Je te prie.
I beg you. I beg you.
Avant que le soleil ne se lève.
Before the sun rises. Before the sun rises.
De me raconter une de tes charmantes histoires.
To tell me one of your charming stories. To tell me one of your charming stories.
Alors je commencerai.
Then I shall begin. Then I shall begin.
J'espère délivrer le peuple de la terreur.
I hope to deliver the people from terror. I hope to deliver the people from terror.
Je veux les libérer de leur souffrance.
I want to free them from their suffering. I want to free them from their suffering.
Dinarzade répondit qu'elle aiderait sa sœur.
Dinarzade replied she would help her sister. Dinarzade replied she would help her sister.
Elle ferait ce que sa sœur souhaitait avec plaisir.
She would do what her sister wished gladly. She would do what her sister wished gladly.
Quand l'heure habituelle arriva.
When the usual hour arrived. When the usual hour arrived.
Le grand vizir vint.
The grand vizier came. The grand vizier came.
Il conduisit Scheherazade au palais.
He conducted Scheherazade to the palace. He conducted Scheherazade to the palace.
Il la laissa seule avec le sultan.
And left her alone with the sultan. And left her alone with the sultan.
Qui lui demanda de lever son voile.
Who asked her to lift her veil? Who asked her to lift her veil?
Il fut émerveillé par sa beauté.
He was amazed by her beauty. He was amazed by her beauty.
Mais voyant ses yeux pleins de larmes.
But seeing her eyes full of tears. But seeing her eyes full of tears.
Il demanda ce qui n'allait pas.
He asked what was the matter. He asked what was the matter.
Sire,
Sire,
répondit Scheherazade.
replied Scheherazade. Replied Scheherazade.
J'ai une sœur qui m'aime profondément.
I have a sister who loves me deeply. I have a sister who loves me deeply.
Je l'aime tout autant en retour.
I love her just as much in return. I love her just as much in return.
S'il vous plaît, laissez-la dormir dans la même chambre.
Please let her sleep in the same room. Please let her sleep in the same room.
Je demande humblement votre faveur ce soir.
I kindly ask for your favor tonight. I kindly ask for your favor tonight.
C'est notre dernière fois ensemble.
This is our last time together. This is our last time together.
Nous ne nous reverrons plus ainsi.
We will not meet like this again. We will not meet like this again.
Shahryar accepta la demande de Scheherazade.
Shahryar agreed to Scheherazade's request. Shahryar agreed to Scheherazade's request.
Dinarzade fut appelée à les rejoindre.
Dinarzade was called to join them. Dinarzade was called to join them.
Une heure avant l'aube, Dinarzade se réveilla.
An hour before daybreak Dinarzade awoke. An hour before daybreak Dinarzade awoke.
Et s'exclama.
And exclaimed. And exclaimed.
Comme elle l'avait promis.
As she had promised. As she had promised.
Ma chère sœur.
My dear sister. My dear sister.
Si tu n'es pas endormie.
If you are not asleep. If you are not asleep.
Raconte-moi, je te prie.
Tell me, I pray you. Tell me, I pray you.
Avant que le soleil ne se lève.
Before the sun rises. Before the sun rises.
Une de tes charmantes histoires.
One of your charming stories. One of your charming stories.
C'est la dernière fois pour moi.
This is the last time for me. This is the last time for me.
Je t'écouterai maintenant.
I will hear you now. I will hear you now.
Avec plaisir.
With pleasure. With pleasure.
Scheherazade ne répondit pas à sa sœur.
Scheherazade did not answer her sister. Scheherazade did not answer her sister.
Mais se tourna vers le sultan.
But turned to the sultan. But turned to the sultan.
Votre Altesse me permettra-t-elle de le faire?
Will your highness permit me to do this? Will your highness permit me to do this?
Ma sœur m'a demandé de le faire.
My sister has asked me to do it. My sister has asked me to do it.
Dit-elle.
Said she. Said she.
Volontiers.
Willingly.
Répondit-il.
He answered. He answered.
Alors Scheherazade commença.
So Scheherazade began. So Scheherazade began.